The sound that woke me up that Saturday morning wasn't my alarm, it was hedge trimmers. 7 o'clock. On a weekend. And if you've ever lived in an HOA neighborhood, you know that when you hear landscaping tools that early, it usually means one of two things. Either someone's very dedicated to their lawn, or someone's about to ruin your day. My name's Trevor Lawson. I'm a software developer who works from home, and for 3 years I've been living in a neighborhood called Meadowbrook Heights in Scottsdale, Arizona. One of those communities that looks perfect in real estate photos, tidy lawns, matching mailboxes, sidewalks, so clean they practically sparkle. But behind that picture-perfect look was an HOA that treated rules like sacred scripture. And the high priest of those rules was our HOA president, Patricia Montgomery. Now, Patricia wasn't technically a bad person, at least not in the beginning. She just believed very strongly in order. Too strongly. To her, a trash can left out an hour too long wasn't a small mistake, it was a violation. A wreath on the front door that was 2 inches too wide. Violation. A kid drawing chalk art on a driveway that lasted overnight? You guessed it, violation. The neighborhood had quietly started calling her Patricia the Perpetually Annoyed. Not to her face, of course. Because Patricia enforced HOA rules the way a prosecutor handles criminal trials. For 3 years, I avoided becoming one of her targets. I paid my dues, kept my lawn trimmed to exactly 2.5 inches. Yes, that was an actual rule, and made sure my garbage cans vanished from sight like fugitives after pickup day. I figured if I stayed, invisible life would stay peaceful. And honestly, it worked. Until the morning Patricia cut my extension cord. See, my house sits on a corner lot. It's a nice property, maybe a little more than I should have spent when I bought it, but perfect for someone who worked from home. Bigger yard, decent privacy, and a backyard patio the previous owners had built with electrical outlets. But the far corner of the yard, where I like to build things on weekends, was too far from those outlets. So about 6 months before all this happened, I did something incredibly dangerous in Patricia's world. I ran a heavy-duty outdoor extension cord from my garage along the side of my house and into the backyard. It was properly secured, outdoor rated, perfectly safe. In other words, something any normal person would ignore. But Patricia Montgomery had made a hobby out of noticing things normal people ignored. That morning I was pouring coffee when I looked out the window and saw her standing in her yard, arms crossed, staring toward the side of my house like she'd just discovered buried treasure. 30 minutes later, my doorbell rang. Then it rang again. Then someone started knocking like the house owed them money. I opened the door, and there she was. Patricia Montgomery, red-faced, standing on my porch holding a pair of heavy metal scissors and about 3 feet of bright orange extension cord. My extension cord. Do you have any idea how many HOA violations you're currently in breach of? She demanded before I could even say good morning. I blinked. Did you cut my cord? This, she said, shaking it at me like courtroom evidence, was running along community visible property. Section 12, paragraph 4 clearly states that electrical cords may not be visible from public walkways. It's on my property, I said. The sidewalk can see it, she snapped. Then she informed me I had until Monday to remove the rest of the cord or face $50 per day fines. And with that, she turned around and marched off my driveway like she'd just saved the neighborhood from a national security threat. I walked around the side of my house, and sure enough, she had sliced the cord right where it came out of my garage. The remaining 50 feet running to my backyard workshop was useless now, which meant my half-built bookshelf project was dead for the weekend. I drove to the hardware store, bought a new cord, came back, reinstalled it, and tried to move on with my day. But something Eric, my neighbor, told me that afternoon stuck in my mind. He leaned over the fence and said quietly, "Patricia's been taking photos of your house for weeks." For what? I think she's building a violation case. Now at the time, I thought that sounded ridiculous. It turns out it wasn't, because the real problem wasn't my extension cord. The real problem was a string of decorative lights running along the fence between our yards. Those lights had been there since before I bought the house. They turned on every night automatically and made Patricia's backyard look like something out of a home decor magazine. I always assumed they were powered from her property. But Sunday morning, Patricia posted on the neighborhood forum accusing me of disconnecting community lighting. Confused, I walked outside and followed the wire along the fence. And that's when I discovered something so absurd it actually made me laugh out loud. The lights ran down the fence post, across my lawn, and plugged directly into the outlet on my garage. The same outlet where my extension cord had been, which meant when Patricia cut my extension cord, she also cut power to her own backyard lights. And now she was accusing me of disconnecting them. That moment changed everything, because suddenly Patricia wasn't enforcing rules anymore. She was trying to cover a mistake. I took photos of everything, the outlet, the plug, the cut cord, and brought them to the HOA hearing 2 days later. The clubhouse looked like a courtroom. Patricia sat at the front table with the other board members. Residents filled the chairs behind me. She listed my violations: unauthorized electrical cord, disconnecting community lighting, refusing inspection. When it was my turn to speak, I passed the photos to the board. "These lights," I said calmly, "are plugged into my garage outlet. When Patricia cut my extension cord, she cut power to them." The room went quiet. One board member asked Patricia if she had verified the power source before accusing me. She hadn't. Another asked if there was documentation proving the lights were community property. There wasn't, which meant for 3 years those lights had been running on my electricity without my knowledge. The board suspended all violations that night. But the story didn't end there, because a few days later I unplugged the lights completely. They were on my property, using my power, and I had never agreed to any of it. The next morning, Patricia climbed through a gate into my backyard, demanding I reconnect them. That's when I called the police. And when the officer explained, very calmly, that HOA presidents do not have the legal authority to trespass or destroy property, something in the neighborhood finally shifted. People started talking. Stories came out. Fines issued unfairly. Retaliation against homeowners who question her. Rules enforced like punishments instead of guidelines. Within weeks, the board forced Patricia to resign. And all of it, the hearings, the arguments, the investigations, started with a single cut extension cord. Looking back now, what strikes me isn't the absurdity of the situation. It's the lesson buried inside it. Patricia believed she was protecting the neighborhood. But somewhere along the way, she forgot something simple, something important. A community isn't built by controlling people. It's built by respecting them. Rules can help neighbors live together peacefully. But when rules become weapons, the community disappears. These days, Meadowbrook Heights feels like a completely different place. The new HOA board enforces rules with common sense. Neighbors actually talk to each other again. And every now and then someone jokes that I'm the guy who took down an HOA president with an extension cord. I laugh when they say it, because the truth is I never set out to fight anyone. I just want to plug in my power tools. But sometimes standing up for something small, something as ordinary as an extension cord, ends up defending something much bigger. Your home, your boundaries, your right to live peacefully in the place you worked hard to own. And that's something worth standing your ground for. So I'm curious, if someone in your neighborhood crossed a line the way Patricia did, would you push back like I did? Or would you stay quiet just to avoid the conflict? I'd honestly like to hear what you would do.